We're going to start off with some great welcome remarks from some of our top people. We have Suzanne Dorsey, Deputy Secretary, Maryland Department of the Environment, and followed by her will be Kristin Fleckenstein, Deputy Secretary, Maryland Department of Planning, and then followed by her will be Adam Ortiz, EPA Region 3 Administrator. And so then after that, we'll have our keynote from Sam Hilmerich, who helped make this building happen. So let's go with Suzanne. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome to Montgomery Park. Sam will also welcome you, but we're so happy to have you here. We're so happy to be with our sister agencies, both at the federal level and the state level, to co-host this meeting. So this conference is going to help continue to transform contaminated sites into productive assets for our states. I want to thank specifically Barbara Brown, Brian Dietz, who have really pulled together to make this happen. Where's Barbara and Brian? Thanks, Barbara. Let's give them a hand. Where's Brian? Oh, Brian. So collaboration and breaking down silos is really important to us in the Moore administration. So we've built our relationships, and we're really proud to work with Deputy Secretary Fleckenstein. And we're also really excited that Administrator Adam Ortiz is here. Hey, Adam, how are you? Today, everybody is here to learn more about the work that the Maryland Department of Planning and the Maryland Department of the Environment and the U.S. EPA have done with the Brownfield redevelopment program, and how you can partner with us to put these lands into productive use for the benefit of all Marylanders, including those that are overburdened and underserved. The Maryland Department of Planning's multi-purpose grant for sites in eastern Baltimore County is accepting requests for assessments, and we look forward to those sites entering our voluntary cleanup program. Voluntary cleanup program applications have not slowed down over the last several years, so we know you appreciate our hardworking staff and appreciate the tax breaks for your remediated sites. We're not stopping there, though. We've got a lot more work to do, and we'll continue to have events like this to share progress. Together, we have turned blighted areas into job producers and green spaces across the state. These redevelopments benefit the economy, public health, and the environment. It's a win-win, right? What I'm really excited about is that we're building the green economy right on top of the formerly polluted sites resulting from the old economy, cleaning land and returning it to good use. I'll give you a great example, Trade Point Atlantic. This is a gigantic site that used to be part of Sparrows Point Industrial Complex, home to what was once the largest steel mill in the country. As our economy changed, that property began to fall into disrepair, and the pollution on it was not being addressed. Our partners in business, with the support of the Maryland Department of the Environment, have been remediating that site, and is now home to over 12,000 jobs, including the next generation of manufacturing for components of offshore wind farms. Pretty much wherever you see the Baltimore skyline changing, there's potentially a brownfield redevelopment involved, with the latest being T. Rowe Price headquarters. That project will include 2 7-story buildings linked by an all-glass lobby atrium totaling 550,000 square feet. Isn't that amazing? It's scheduled to open next year. So we've got 5 key priorities right here at MDE: fight climate change, clean up and protect the Chesapeake Bay, reverse environmental injustice, strictly enforce laws that regulate pollution, and modernize this agency to function effectively. Environmental justice is Secretary McElwain's and Administrator Adam Ortiz's main priority. Adam Ortiz is an incredible partner in our effort to serve communities that we have failed to serve in the past, to redress the systemic racism that has faced disproportionately some of our communities. Everybody deserves clean land, everyone deserves clean air, and everyone deserves clean water. We're working on an EPA grant right now for $1 million to address problems in South Baltimore and on Maryland's Eastern Shore. We are giving historically ignored communities a voice, and we need your partnership. We need your partnership to make this a success. It shouldn't matter where you live or how much money you make or what you look like. We need to make our communities healthier, reduce their exposure to pollution, and we deeply, deeply appreciate all of you who are here today, who take on extra responsibilities of remediating contaminated sites in compliance with all environmental laws. You're providing a very valuable service, and you're doing it the right way. Thank you all so much for joining us. Deputy Secretary?
Can you all hear me? There we go. Okay. On behalf of Secretary Rebecca Flora and the entire staff of the Maryland Department of Planning, good morning. I'd like to take an opportunity to thank our staff as well, Jason Dubo and Sylvia Mosser, and all of the staff at MDP who have helped put this together, and please join me in giving them a round of applause. It is truly a pleasure to be with you all this morning, to welcome you to this important conference focusing on a topic that's not exactly glamorous, brownfields. But beauty is in the eye of the beholder. In a meeting earlier this year, a state senator made an interesting observation. "I admire planners," he said. "They look beyond what is there to what could be." And I believe that's why we're here today. Whether you're a planner or not, because we are trying to see what could be rather than what should just be left behind. So whether you're here representing a local government, or if you're a consultant, an attorney, a developer, a community organization, or just someone trying to make a difference on your own, I applaud you for taking the steps to address an important issue facing properties around the nation, plenty of which are in our own backyard. The fact that you're here means that you care about people, that people who live in vulnerable communities, impacted by brownfields, and are looking for ways to affect change. You are also here because to do that, you need some guidance, and that's why we're here today. Maybe you need guidance identifying environmentally impacted areas, or what can be done to assess contamination, or maybe best practices for remediation. Or perhaps you're just here for somebody to show you the money, and you're looking for funding opportunities and guidance to take the first steps. Whatever the reason, the Maryland Department of Planning is here to assist in taking those next steps. I hate to say we're the government and we're here to help you, but I assure you that that is truly the reason for today's seminar. When Governor Moore took office, he asked each of the agencies to take a deep look at the work we do and how we can do it better. So we did just that. As did MDE. We created a strategy to help Maryland reach its full potential. Under this administration, MDP's mission is for Maryland to achieve economic prosperity for all through the development of plans, policies, and places that have embraced diversity, treasured all heritages, and uphold human well-being and ecological regeneration as paramount. To accomplish this mission, we focus on the administration's priorities of making Maryland the greenest state in the country, increasing Maryland's economic competitiveness, and connecting Marylanders to jobs. What brings us here today fits perfectly into these goals and priorities and helps us within our mission to making our mission closer to a reality. Promoting brownfields projects can result in environmental cleanup of contaminated, potentially hazardous sites, repurposing vacant, underutilized properties into beneficial land use, promoting economic development, and even offer skilled job training and placement through the EPA's Brownfields program. So, what is the role of the Maryland Department of Planning in brownfields? MDP's Brownfields Assistance Program serves as a resource, a liaison, and a facilitator for brownfield remediation and development. Our role in this effort is not only to provide education, which is why we're here today, but also to connect local jurisdictions and other interested parties with brownfield assessment and cleanup, planning and possible redevelopment funding and incentive opportunities through state and federal government agencies. We can also offer to help identify technical and financial resources to help navigate the brownfield process. And we may also help in the preparation of grant applications and assess other types of funding and tax incentives. These financial facets served as the catalyst to bring us here today. MDP learned from the EPA several years ago that they were receiving very few grant applications to the brownfields programs here in Maryland, with the exception of Baltimore City. The EPA wanted to see more applications from Maryland since the state was largely missing out on brownfield funding, meaning we're not taking advantage of our fair share of federal funding. Why are we leaving money on the table? Beginning in 2018, MDP started our Brownfield Redevelopment Assistance Program in collaboration with the Maryland Department of the Environment, along with some other partners, including the EPA. Since then, the EPA has awarded brownfield grants in places such as Frederick City, Baltimore County, Baltimore City, the city of Salisbury. We also are administering an assessment grant in eastern Baltimore County right now that provides free environmental site assessments in that area, and I'm sure that you'll learn more about that today. But as you can see, state agencies and federal agencies can't do the work alone. Community partners, such as all of you here today, are vital to this mission. Given these histories and the relevance of brownfields work to the state's priorities, we are thrilled to be hosting this third statewide Brownfield Conference. We are thankful to be here with MDE at their Montgomery Park headquarters and thank them for hosting us. Quite fitting that this building is a brownfield site, which you'll hear more about from our keynote speaker, Sam Himmelrich of Himmelrich Associates. We have great appreciation for all of our presenters in today's program, and we sincerely thank everyone who was here in attendance to learn more about landing a brownfield. The purpose of today's conference is to educate and prepare and inspire communities to apply for EPA Brownfields program grants, to better enable local jurisdictions and communities to shape their future in a way that reflects local planning goals for brownfield redevelopment, growth, and environmental health, to reduce development pressure for greenfields, and prioritize reinvestment in developed areas, priority funding areas, by focusing on brownfield redevelopment. This year's conference theme, Landing a Brownfield, is meant to educate communities about the process, tools, and resources needed to acquire brownfield properties. We've seen communities struggle with strategizing how to move a privately owned brownfield property toward beneficial reuse. We've heard from other communities needing to understand ways to transfer publicly owned brownfield property to another entity to help the site become eligible for grant funding. The Landing a Brownfield theme today will seek to answer these questions through an ambitious agenda. Up next, you'll hear from EPA Region 3 Administrator Adam Ortiz. And then you'll hear from our keynote presenter, Sam Himmelrich, who will tell the site history, environmental remediation, and adaptive reuse story of Montgomery Park. The sessions will then include information on land banks, vetting brownfield properties through environmental due diligence, federal HUD resources for acquiring brownfields for land, and how to leverage intergovernmental partnerships for land transfers. I did warn you that today's topics were not going to be exactly glamorous or sexy, but they are very purposeful indeed. There will also be a site tour breakout of this Montgomery Park building and a video compilation of Maryland's brownfield projects. At the conclusion of the day, we're hoping for the following outcomes: inspiring more Maryland communities to apply for grants from EPA's Brownfields program next year, whether they be for assessment, cleanup, or multipurpose, or job training grants, resulting in more Maryland brownfield properties moving closer for beneficial reuse, or equipping communities with the information they need to acquire brownfield properties, or transfer ownership of brownfield properties to better position them for eventual reuse. And finally, and perhaps even most importantly, is to spark networking and collaboration among today's conference attendees to establish lasting relationships and catalyze movement for brownfield sites and projects. If we accomplish any or all of those, then you can say the government came to us and actually helped us, and we will have accomplished our mission today. With that, I'd like to pass things over to EPA Region 3 Administrator Adam Ortiz. Thank you.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? I know, hump day. We're almost there, folks. We're doing well. It's a pleasure to be in this room and a pleasure to be in this building. I was excited to be here to connect with all of you because I've done this meeting virtually and given remarks virtually, but I haven't been here in person. And this is such an iconic building and structure. I've never actually taken the tunnel until today. I don't know what I did to get demoted in the parking space category, Suzanne, but I'm glad I did. It's okay. I'm sure that's not your oversight. Just kidding. But what's cool about the tunnel is you can see the history and sort of the trace and the connection, of this building and the economic activity and the viability, and then sort of a no man's land, an economic lull in the facility, and now it's vibrant. Now we're coming together, empowered to revitalize so many other places just like this. So it's the thread of time and the inspiration and the vision that people have in transforming facilities and forgotten places matters. Because here we are, we're in this building, we're taking it for granted, in fact. But before we were in this room, there were people just like us figuring out, how do we clean up this site? How do we attract businesses and tenants to it? How do we make this a vibrant place for people to come together? And that's a lot of the work that we do in the Brownfields program. And EPA, so we have some EPA folks in the room. If I could just ask my team to stand up just so you can see us. Don't be shy. Come and talk to us throughout the day. You too, Neil. I see you too, Neil. So I know we're getting applause because we're big funders, but we're also great people. But we do have your backs across the board. And who's in the room? I recognize some folks and some longtime friends. Sylvia, good to see you. Jason, great to see you. So raise your hand if you're from the government sector, public sector. All right. If you're from the state sector, state level, okay, county level, local government level. Excellent. Private sector. Excellent. Engineering, planning, public outreach, communications. All right. All right. Nonprofit sector. Academia, think tanks. Cool. So there's a lot of wisdom and a lot of perspectives in this room, you know, as we take on the brownfield stuff. And the environment is, you know, not just an environmental exercise. Restoring the environment is also a social exercise. It's also a cultural and a historical exercise to change, you know, sometimes brutal dynamics in our past. It's, you know, obviously about ecosystems, but also about placemaking quality of life and how we as a society live in harmony, you know, with the earth around us. And that is a big job. You know, the environment is complex. It's a big place. You know, it's huge. And we need as many smart people from as many sectors to help figure out how to undo, you know, some of these knots, some of these tough issues in the past. And that's really what the Brownfields program and the Brownfields effort is all about. You know, people kind of hanging in there and figuring out the tough stuff, the tough places, the sacrifice places, the forgotten places, the places that served a purpose and were, you know, did something once that certainly had some benefit, but that were too much trouble for other people to pick up and to clean up. And it's the hard stuff that's really the valuable stuff. It's the stuff that matters. You know, and as Suzanne referenced, a lot of contaminated sites are in our frontline environmental justice communities, communities of color, poor folks, you know, folks who couldn't quite stand up and have the resources or capacity to take it on themselves. But they're not forgotten anymore. It's a priority of Secretary McElwain's, it's a priority of EPA Administrator Regan's, it's a priority of President Joe Biden's, that we focus on the communities that are forgotten. And EPA is putting our money where our mouth is. 40% of the funds that we have going out the door are going to disadvantaged communities. That's a big number, as you could imagine, and it's a lot of communities that are often forgotten, but it's a start. But if we're going to turn around a lot of these places, we need your help. You know, we need the best thinking from academia and nonprofits. We need the efficiency and thoughtfulness and experience of the private sector. We need folks in the public sector and, you know, in the long game, trying to see the vision and transform these communities and bringing people back together. These forgotten places, these places that divided us, you know, these places that are scars on our land, but to transform that and bring people back together again to create that vitality. And that's important work. That's important work in all of our projects, regardless of where we are. And if we have a vision and we're trying to apply for a grant, or if we're in the conceptual stage or the planning stage, or trying to acquire the site, or trying to get the capital stack just right, you know, all those things matter. Because decades from now, folks who we will not, who we do not know, who may not know us, will be enjoying that site. They'll be prosperous from it. It'll be a park where they come together, where their kids play. It'll be a place where people bike. It'll be where a brewery is going to be, or an office park, or something vital to the future society. And those little things that we do every day to restore these places matter. The work that you do matters. The vision and the creativity that you bring to the table matters, and it means a lot. So I just celebrated my 2-year anniversary in this job as regional administrator. I've been a Maryland local government person for most of my career in Prince George's and Montgomery County, and I'm just really pleased to have the opportunity to serve in President Biden's administration to invest in America. And I just love bringing that local background to this perspective, because I really know what it takes, you know, that we have to connect with the people on the ground who have the wisdom and know stuff to get things done. And in this role, I can see very clearly that, you know, EPA has grown much beyond its, you know, initial founding in the early 70s. It's important that we have that enforcement role. It's important that we have that compliance and that permitting role. You know, we have to carry out those landmark laws of our country, the Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, and the variety of land. That's an important job that we have. But that's a small fraction of the work that EPA does today. We're much more a funder. We're a huge grant maker. When I took this job 2 years ago, I was doing my homework, getting ready for the interviews, and EPA Region 3 was giving out $400 million to communities. And these were communities that were doing stuff that needed a boost. You know, it wasn't a handout, but it's like, hey, we're doing stuff here on the ground. We're trying to clean up this place. We're trying to upgrade our wastewater treatment plant. We're trying to get our drinking water system right. We're trying to do all this stuff. We could use a little help. You know, that's pretty, you know, that's where that $400 million went to kind of give places a boost to accelerate local folks. $400 million. And I was like, whoa, it's a lot of money. You know, as a small town mayor, I was, you know, not talking in M's, 400M. I was talking in K's, you know, 400K. That was a lot of money when I was in a small town, and you know, at the local government level. And the county is a little bigger, but you know, not those kind of dollars for grant making. But now today, you know, we just closed our fiscal year. We've given out in partnership. We've invested in partnership $1.3 billion to communities. $1.3 billion. And it's not EPA's money, you know, it's all of our money, you know, as taxpayers, and to invest and channel it in the places that's going to matter most. And that's our task is to make sure that those dollars make the most difference in the places that need it the most. That's a big deal. So EPA is much more, you know, a funder. We're also a partner. You know, we're here to provide the technical assistance and the consulting and to help convene meetings like this where you can listen to each other and get inspired and learn about history and take, you know, what you learned today, you know, into your own projects. To compete a little bit, to compete for dollars, as Kristin mentioned, you know, to compete with each other for the best project or the most innovative, the most thoughtful, or to attract the best investors that you can. You know, our job is to kind of create the space, to facilitate that space, and Kristin, you made that point, to facilitate that space where we can share ideas and be empowered to get things done. You know, that's an important role that we have. We're also a cheerleader. You know, EPA, like many of you, you know, in our job description is a lot of thankless tasks. You know, a lot of tough stuff, a lot of things that, you know, are not seen or not always appreciated, or things that are taken for granted, but things that matter, because we see the long game. You know, we're sticking in there, and we see you, we see all of you, and the work that you're trying to do, and we're cheering you on 100% because we get it. We know that this stuff is tough. We know the stuff is tough. We know that this infrastructure is old. We know a lot of stuff is forgotten. We know it's often easier that investors want to have their money returned faster in easy places and are more hesitant in tougher places. But you see it, you see the vision, you see how to get it done, and we're here to cheer you on. So those are really, really big and important roles. And we've had a good run here in Maryland. It's true we haven't gotten as many applications here from Maryland as we have from other states. Per capita, you're way trailing West Virginia, which also has a great program. So if I could stir you to be more competitive, please do. The fact that you're here and the fact that you're showing success is fantastic, but I want you to talk to your neighbors and to advertise your successes so other communities can see what's possible. But since the late 90s, we've invested about $20 million in the state, and that has leveraged, with your help, $425 million. That has generated almost 6,000 jobs. These are investments. These are investments. These aren't gifts that we're giving in tech. These are investments that are generating. You know, we work with tremendous partners like CivicWorks. Anyone from CivicWorks here today? You know, fantastic bunch of folks. They do a lot of restoration, a lot of job training, and they've trained more than 600 people through the Brownfields program. Such a big deal, and putting people to work who might not otherwise have opportunities to support their families. We're providing targeted Brownfields assessments to places that are too often forgotten, or places that are great but have some parts of their communities that are forgotten. Seat Pleasant, Berlin, Salisbury, among so many others. And it all matters. You know, we might not see the return in a year or two, but we will see those returns in 5 years or 10 years when people like us are in those spaces taking it for granted. So we're here at EPA cheering you on. You know, restoring the environment and getting these tough and forgotten places is a big job. You know, we need a lot of help. You know, we need to have each other's back. We need all hands on deck. We need to compete. We need to steal ideas. We need to have courage to take on the tough stuff and a willingness to take on some risk and encourage others to take those risks as well. Because we're on Team Brownfields together, but we're on Team Maryland together. We're on Team Environment together. We're on Team Quality of Life together, and that's the only way that we can do it. That's the only way that we can heal these broken places in our land and these broken places in our social fabric. So I'm so pleased to be here. It's so good to see so many friends from, over the many years, Jason and Suzanne and Sylvia and everybody else who I didn't mention. Just thank you for your work, and thank you for having me with you today.